Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to week 2 of the Unified Premier League Summer 2021 season. It's Mystic versus Alter tonight. I am Corbeck, joined by Chief. We have First Night of Knee and Hyper bringing up the rear on production, making sure this all goes smoothly. And Chief, I know that you have a lot to talk about. You're very excited for tonight's match, so I will happily turn it over to your big wrinkly brain.
I just want to say it's a pleasure to be casting you once again. It's been probably like a month since we've last casted together, so it's going to be really refreshing. Only one map today, so we're going to actually bring up that map ban now and kind of see where we're going, because as you mentioned, there is a big topic I want to talk about. That's going to be Cafe. Now, we've seen a ton of Cafe recently, Corbeck, and a lot of rosters are kind of in this struggle period where they just aren't comfortable on Cafe. And I'm always bringing up one particular roster when I talk about Cafe. I'm always drawing this parallel, and that's Team Mystic, who's currently playing today. And why that's so important is because Team Mystic is finding new ways of playing Cafe. Far too often do we see teams kind of get stuck in the traditional meta. And we can see that if we go back to our previous meta, Utility Consumption Simulator. There's only a finite amount of ways you can play Pixel. You can only bring so many ADSs. You can only bring so many wide pancakes. That's why, Corbeck, we saw the expansion into barback storage. We saw the expansion into washrooms with multiple deployable shields. So now, since we're away from Utility Consumption Simulator, teams need to start to find new ways of playing Cafe. And Team Mystic has done exactly that. They're playing homage to the original Cafe map, the expansion downstairs into Reading Room, but they're doing it in 3 different ways. One way, they fully reinforce the Reading Room wall into pillar. Sometimes they have a rotation there with a single reinforcement, and sometimes they do what I call the Narnia strategy, where they bait the reinforcements into Reading Room, they don't play Reading Room, and Asian is out in Narnia somewhere, taking gunfights and winning those kills. And why that's so different is it's forcing the attacking IGL to decide, where does he actually want to push from, or where do they want to push from? Do they want to do a normal pixel push, deal with barback storage, deal with washroom? Do they need to deal with the underneath pressure and the nitro cells? And it becomes this like information overload, and just IGLs start to suffer. They just break down because they're like, oh my God, there's so many things to do. I can't do it all. And then they just crash and burn. So I've been really excited to see Team Mystic play these strats more. And I watch, more of these amateur teams attempt to play Cafe. They're doing the same old. Please, VOD review new teams. VOD review PL, VOD review CL, or VOD review Mystic, because there are new ways of playing it. I've really enjoyed Team Mystic's new Cafes. And again, Team Mystic, or formerly known as Aggro at the time, pioneered amateur Siege as being attacker-sided clubhouses, particularly on cache CCTV. So if they pioneered a strategy on one map, they could do it again on another.
They very well could. I mean, as always, I appreciate your analysis right there. Very thorough. And your ability to tie it back to a classic young adult literary series all in one sweeping breath is very good indeed. And I am now very excited to watch Mystic play this map. I personally have seen a ton of Cafe. I think my last UPL broadcast, they were Cafe as well. I've seen Cafe in some other leagues. I just can't get away from Cafe these days. The block with its floors. But, I mean, you have kind of whet the appetite a little bit here with this idea that Mystic has come out strong. They're changing things up and they're forging new paths. And I mean, in a game like Siege, especially on maps that are more well-trod ground, that is something that is a little bit taken for granted. So it'll be interesting to see something a little bit different or initiative taken on this particular maps. It is worth pointing out that despite your rather prescient warnings and mentions of how strong Mystic is, Alter did pick into this. So they have the option between Consulate and Cafe, and they did choose Cafe as the go-to. So they have kind of made their bed, and now they have to lie in it against this Mystic squad. It's worth pointing out, of course, that both of these teams are 1-0 so far in the season. Not a lot has been tread here, so we will not have statistic build-up kind of to get a good look. We know some of these players of old. I'm sure you are well aware of them, Chief. So we go ahead and get started here with Mystic on the defense, Alter on the attack, and our first ban coming down the pipe.
And you mentioned Team Mystic starting on defense. Most teams always want to start on defense, but always select attack first. So they have something up their sleeve. They decided to bring defense out first. It doesn't really matter what map Team Mystic is playing. Any map, all 7 of them, they will always attempt to go to attack first. Now, maybe they wanted to have priority ban, being the first team to ban an attacking operator. We've seen the impact of Flores recently. We talked about the mental overload of IGLs. Flores is able to bypass that altogether because, again, going back to Utility Consumption Simulator, you need to have somebody to burn the ADS, you need somebody to destroy the shield, and you need somebody to cover all the shenanigans that could be taking place. Flores says, I don't need any of those. I can just drop my drone safely from the hatch, drive it over to the shield, and detonate it. Sure, it can get shot in the way, but if you have somebody, covering from ticket window, it becomes very difficult to do so. Thatcher and Valkyrie are staple bans, but that final one sneaking its way on through, Pulse, an information gatherer off the board for Mystic. Quite a unique ban.
Yeah, that one I think leaves a little bit to puzzle out right there. Not what I would call a priority ban by any stretch of the word. I mean, he does have some applicability on this map, but certainly not enough that you would maybe, ban him instead of perhaps a Kaid or something like that. But as Mystic is starting off on the defense, perhaps they wanted to keep that particular operator in pocket here, and sure enough, Spiff will bring him out. Interesting, though, they're going with Poison on the Clash here. We'll see if that's a 6-pick bait or if they're actually going to stick with this as a defensive setup. No, the 6-pick will come down. Poison switches over to the Mira, another operator that I wouldn't have been surprised to see banned, but who will remain. Amaru being 6-picked into as well here. So Amaru, pretty interesting to see her in the lineup even on a 3rd floor site, but a very solid defensive squad coming out from the Mystic side.
Defenders
now, digesting that Pulse ban just a bit, we're talking about how teams are experimenting with new ways of holding the map. We talked about what I refer to as Narnia strategy, really just hang out on the west side of the map on the 2nd floor. Well, one of the best ways to do so is with Nitrocell denial and prevent any attackers from pushing in through piano underneath or from above. So the way you do that is you launch Nitrocell if it's guided with information, Valkyrie camera, a Meister camera, an Echo, or more importantly, a Pulse, because he can just do it all himself. He can look through the maps, see a player above, and Nitrocell pick a booth, and just like that, he's got himself a free kill. So that could work that way. And also, Poison, when he was showing the clash, I was thinking to myself, all right, he has access to his 2 favorite operators. He can play Mira, and he can play his Clash. And I had no idea what you would choose because he adores both of them. Now, Poison is going to be the Mystic IGL, and his time on Synthetic, he really brought out the Mira plays. Uh-oh. Oh, I thought I saw that was going to be a flying through heaven window. That Amaru could be quite a terrifying endeavor if you're a defender. You might miss the audio cues, and all of a sudden there's a G8 in your face.
Well, this is a very interesting defensive setup indeed. The way in which the Mira window has positioned, kind of no shield here, so Pixel largely forsaken. Baxel will get a couple of shots in right there, but nothing too bad happening. Ashen drops back, wasn't able to secure anything. Walt is low on health here as well, but those are just the initial rushes so far. Poison doing a quick check down here is sort of backed up into the palace corner. Does have to be a little bit careful, but it'll be Tones who strikes first. He does take down that pesky Maru. Spiff adding to the kill. Spiff gets another one. Tones in as well. Oh, and the 2 older characters, 2 veterans really coming through strong. Tones, unfortunately, will lose his head right there, but that's the only loss that Mystic has suffered.
A bad day for Alter. They just attempt the rush strategy, flying in through heaven and not dropping every available hatch. It's going to put Amp in a clutch scenario. He found 1 kill, and he has an LMGE, which means he has 150 bullets to send down range. That's more than enough to grab headshots, especially when they start to try peek. They all line up in the side of Mystic, but the LMG is unable to find the targets, and the band post-jip workout Ashen is able to find his kill.
Well, it was just kind of already done with by that point in time, wasn't it? If we're being honest, it was more, just see what damage you could do, and it was very close to being a flawless round. I think Tones probably played that a little aggressively at the end there on the Maestro, just because, you know, he knew that he could and he would get by with it. They'll go down to kitchen service now, bringing the Wamai and the Jaegers to the double whammy util denial. Kaid will remain in play and smoke being brought out. I say that, and Kaid will actually be the 6th pick. A little bit surprising here, all things considered. Echo coming out instead, and in doing that, they have forsaken hard breach denial here. So, again, another bit of an interesting defensive setup from Mystic, Chief, I'll be honest with you.
Especially with the lineup that Mystic has. You have ADSs and Wamai pancakes. The only way you're removing the West Cave, which is going to be on the air ventilation when you're cooking, you know, it takes all the steam away. I don't know what they're called. Air hood? I don't know what they're called. Something like that. It's a giant metal thing in the middle of your screen right now. You put the Cade underneath that, and there's no way of destroying it unless they bring out a Maverick, which we currently don't see being brought out. Or you get a lucky frag grenade that drops right in the middle of the map and kind of air burst detonates. Now, that is an option.
5 seconds left.
Alter is currently bringing 1 set of frag grenades. That's going to be the back pocket sledge. But again, Team Mystic has so much frag grenade denial that most likely we're going to see Gnar just hot drop one of his nades through the rafters. It's going to get ADS to my pancake, and he's either going to flashbang dump, and, well, you don't have enough flashbangs to be able to successfully remove all that util, and that K-Claw is going to perpetually exist unless, again, some crazy miracle happens, which most likely won't. But obviously Mystic has their own strategy moving forward, and right now, Corbeck, it looks like it's going to be some type of expansion into VIP that's going to be more of this buffer room hold with aggression.
Yeah, this is not necessarily uncommon to see that smoke shield set up right there in a position to hold that freezer hallway. But again, I mean, no hard breach denial at all. You are kind of gambling to a certain extent on your opponents not trying something like a bakery rush, but they are not. They're going to look like they are taking this one from the top down. And fortunately, I think that to a certain extent will play straight into Mystic what they want to do. You already see the drops coming in here, and Gnar will go ahead and punch some holes in. They've got this Jackal here as well that can check those footsteps. Ashen will be waiting slightly down the stairs. Is going to have to be a little bit careful though with that. Jackal does make the game of roaming that much more difficult. Ashen just peeking up towards that red hatch, gets one off of it. Waltz walks right in, and he gets another one as well. Ashen with the double kill will fall back happy and full off that bit of work.
If I could make a gym reference once again for Ashen, the pre-workout still in his veins. I mean, you're just not going to expect a Jaeger to be sitting in the middle of red stairs. You mentioned that there's a Jackal in play. All you need to do is have the Jackal look down towards red stairs. You'll see some type of footprints and say, hey, something odd is going on this red stairs. Maybe we should, you know, investigate. Maybe we should double drone, or at minimum, just have a drone work its way down red. Just a precaution. You don't necessarily need to take that map control. You just need to make sure you're not going to get slammed for that exact position. Now, with 2 casualties against Alter, they're going to have to find new ways of removing that soft floor, and it's going to come off the flat place breaching charges. We saw 2 sets brought out by Alter, so they're going to be able to remove a lot of that floor, but they don't have a lot of time to do it.
Only about 40 seconds left on the clock now, and a bit of a dangerous spot to be in here. Gnar on that top deck does have that caber. He can open things up just a little bit, but they're going to need a lot more than just floor opening in order to win this one out. They really haven't even challenged the heart of this defense, and it's going to take something very impressive indeed. That's not going to be it. Teddy pasted on the stairs. Asian was just waiting for that one with a little peek through Whiskey. Now the pressure really on. Gnar will get one back, gets another one. 2 good kills there for the Sledge, who will wrap around towards the entrance of Kitchen, comes straight onto the site looking for something, does get hit by the yokai and just annihilated there in the middle of the preparation area. A little unfortunate there for him. A good double back, by the way, on the Echo.
Problem with Alter was the fact that they just lost their roster count far too early on, and senselessly at that. You should just never be dropping a hatch without knowing on the other side. It's like going into the event horizon. If you go into the black hole, it's a very dangerous venture. You want to at least send some type of probe. Maybe it won't be able to relay that information, but still, you want to have that nice sense of security that you know nobody's going to end up swinging you. That decision was never made by Alter. It cost them 2 of their roster count, and Sledge being the biggest one. You saw the time constraint that it ended up making. We had to find new ways to remove that floor. Amp did a wonderful job of that, using the flat place breaching charges in that red corridor, crouching and removing a lot of the floor in Meat Locker. But that wasn't quite enough. We even saw Teddy. He had access to those breaching charges, but he was required elsewhere on the map to start to open up walls. And at that point, Alter, they needed to start to downshift. They needed to start to speed up their attack, and time was no longer on their side. Forced to send it into the bomb site and take gunfights. It didn't end up working out for them. Now Alter, they're going to a hybrid bomb site. It's not quite bar, but it's not quite kitchen. It has combinations and elements of both of them. So if they remember their time management skills and they remember how they executed properly into bar, they should be able to take that upstairs control. They start that vertical pressure, and if they've done their homework enough, they've taken plenty of gunfights against Mystic, and hopefully Alter's going to be on top. But they do have to be conscious of the clock.
Yeah, the problem is, of course, the clock, the 6th defender, are always making them consider, and genuinely, I think that they might be kicking themselves just a little bit. I mean, they did put a lot of time into opening up that verticality, which you can't blame anyone for doing on this map. But the problem was there wasn't actually really that much of a site presence for the Mystic team. If we really went back and looked at it, a lot of them were playing off in various positions as if anticipating that verticality. But now we go to a 2nd floor defense with a 3rd floor extension. They will be using poison on the Clash right there, who is forming this front line. Ashen stacked up behind them in that position of supreme trust, as Tones is going to go ahead and open up a little hole right there in the floor to help him out just a little bit. Asian is off site as well. They will have to fight their way down through this one if they so choose. Obviously, the direct entry is a possibility, but it looks like they've quite forsaken that as Gnar goes up to this window, prepares to knock it in with the sledge and just open up a different firing line.
It actually might have an angle into Clash if there isn't a reinforcement over on Wood. I'm not quite sure what the Mystic setup has, and there is a reinforcement there. So Poison is going to be safe, at least in that position for now. Oh, it's fully reinforced. Yeah, so Poison's going to just be sitting in Pixel the entire time. He shouldn't ever be pushed away unless there's an upside down rappel that gets the proper angle. But Team Mystic already is prepared for that contingency as there's 2 members ready to take that gunfight on that east rappel of South. Plus, with an opening duel onto Amp, things are not looking good once again for Alter. This is the 3rd round in a row, Corvette, where they have the opening casualty against them. Nitrocell goes out, and Gnar's going to take a lot of damage. Sitting on 26 HP, the silver lining is he's still alive. He has access to all of his frags. He already actually expended those frag grenades, so his only option is to take these gunfights, and he's wasting a ton of time just praying that a member of Mystic just rotates into his crosshair.
I mean, the value of the defense in depth here on this site, you do have the 2nd kind of line to fall back to, but they're not even really needing it right now. The front line can't even be breached in a certain way. Asian does go down to Teddy, and Baxley will get another one as well. So those are both very good kills. Teddy is in now. The Iana going ahead and take a look there. Gnar coming in as well, and this will be an opportunity for the defenders to fall back. Just as I said it, that 2nd line of defense is needed, but they are running out of time here. The Clash pushing the backstairs. Poison just trying to be a nuisance. Good bit of play right there. Nearly got him. Unfortunately, will not be able to bring the Londoner down. The frag grenade tossed almost casually over the top of the stairs. Will not do it. Poison does have the gun out this time, hoping perhaps to catch him off guard. Another frag grenade comes sailing in. Still alive. Poison pushes up the back stairs. The kills are flowing in from Mystic now. 4 seconds left on the clock. Teddy is on site. Could go for the plant here if they so choose. Everything on the shoulders of Poison. Poison with that vertical angle, trying to tippy-tap shots in. Does just enough to protect the bomb. Great heads-up play there from the Clash player.
Wow, threading the needle, and Teddy will eventually go down, but not out. And that was a roller coaster of a round, Courtbeck. It was almost looking like Alter was able to save the day, but the opening duel that they lost at the 90-second mark ended up costing them just a little bit too much because they had great refrag potential. We saw the play upstairs in Cocktail, able to get 2 kills. And at that, I was starting to think that Mystic may have thrown this round. Once again, they started to fall into that pit that they did in round number 1, where they just start to play too aggressive because they have the man advantage. And I mean, look at the pressure it ended up putting on Team Mystic. We saw refrags go back and forth, but it ended up going down to a 1v2. Clash against 2 can be quite a difficult engagement to go in. Sure, she has a pocket F2. Sure, her secondary sidearm can absolutely slam, but she's playing upstairs, and she has to pray that she has the right angle. And apparently she prayed enough to Lord Tachanka, able to spot the kneecap of Teddy, and ended up saving the round for Team Mystic. But we know Altered is going to be more than capable of applying great pressure into Reading Room and more than capable of winning that bomb site.
I mean, again, time didn't help either. It did take them a while to kind of get that first crack. And like you said, the 2v1 with Clash of the 1 is a little bit difficult in many cases for the Clash player. But if you kind of have time on your side, you can certainly use that to your advantage. That scenario didn't play out exactly that way, but I mean, it was a very good job done by the Clash to kind of find that really nasty angle. And as you said, shoot him in the kneecap repeatedly, which I've heard probably hurts quite a bit, all things considered. So can't speak from personal experience on that one, but up to the 3rd floor now. Thankfully, I should add, up to the 3rd floor it is now. Asian maybe look for a little spawn peek there. No, he's just going to pop the window, give himself a bit of a sound cue, and they will kind of tighten up just a little bit. Now, back white stairs getting pushed from the freezer side. We'll see what develops right there. Ashen now on the rotate. Waltz is here as well. A lot of focus being applied to the 2nd floor this time, so they've changed their method just a little bit, have Alter, to see if they can approach this in a bit of a different way. The swing coming out there, Ash not finding anything, and he will fall back alongside Asian here in the Reading Room.
You can see the decision-making coming out from Alter right now. They're doing that 2-pronged assault, applying a lot of pressure to that middle floor, but they have to be conscious of the clock. That seems to be quite a theme here, because Alter, if they lose too much emphasis pressuring the 2 roamers downstairs, they might lose sight of the entire round, because if you have control of that 2nd floor, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful in your push upstairs, because you're still going to have to address the deployable shields, the ADS, and all the utility that can still be mounting. Plus, you're going to have the sprays through the wall. Max Illy is going to have that problem. He's going to take some damage, but Gnar from behind pushes straight in for the north door, and he finds the 2 kills. Mystic's roam dismantled in a heartbeat, and now Alter has full control of the 2nd floor. They have access to the frag points over to C1, and they might be able to get the kill. Tone goes down, but not out. The Bane of the Maestro spot is back once again.
Oh, Tones is down, done, dusted. Kill coming up there. Another one flying in. Poison is down now as well in the same spot. Oh, too much to drink there in the cocktail bar. Everybody on their backs. That's not particularly good. You'll see what they can do with it. Spiff tries to throw a C4 out there. Rather ambitious attempt. Buys a little bit of space maybe to get the res onto Poison, and will do so. So they will at least get the Mira's gun back up. That health pool, though, remaining painfully low. Poison now still holding that spot as Gnar immediately rips Spiff to pieces. So that momentary heroics right there ended in a blaze of gunfire up the back stairs. That really just leaves Gnar. He's going to push in again. He gets blinded right as he comes around the corner. Poison is blinded as well, and it'll be the swing in to get him with a G36.
More than enough time to execute for Alter, and it came off the back of Gnar. I mean, what a strong diversion for the offensive team. They tease the pressure over into Fireplace. The 2 roamers downstairs, Asian and Ashen, were now forced to take the gunfight into Fireplace and completely forgot about the Pillar's Reading Room door. And they got slaughtered as a result. That's one of the reasons why Team Mystic has multiple ways of holding bar. Sometimes they like to have that rotation in their Reading Room to give them that flexibility, or they want to hold Train Room altogether to make sure the attackers never get that control. It was back-to-back identical defenses for Mystic, and Alter read into it perfectly. A great round for them. And honestly, sure, Alter lost round 3, but I think they that was kind of a confidence booster for them. They show that, hey, we're very close to being able to win these rounds. Small corrections, and we can win it. They take those lessons learned in round 3, and they take the victory into round 4.
Yeah. Hey, I think you're right. Just a little bit of trial and error, really, to push forward right there, and a bit of good gunplay as well from the Sledge. Can't count that out of the equation. But going now to kitchen service, kitchen cooking, Capcom making an appearance here. The Spetsnaz operator probably doesn't get the love that or at least say the love that I wish he got, but he's still always fun to see in action. Asian is in this general area as well. On the Mozzie, they're bringing a mute, so they will be opting for at least maybe some form of hard breach denial on this particular run. Ashen now taking over vigil duties, and Tone on the Melusi show a completely different setup than what we saw last time. Will maybe throw a little bit of a wrench in Alter's adaptations. Over on Alter's side, they're sticking with a very similar lineup to what we've seen before. No big surprises there. Second floor still being defended. They're not going to give that up for free, as you would expect. And it'll be a bit interesting to see kind of maybe what Ashen can make out of this on this vigil. Really, the Roamer going to be the first point of contact, theoretically, for this Alter squad, depending on how they go about this.
Baxley is now running the Ash. He was on a couple roles. We've seen Ayana, we've seen Jackal be played by him. And I wonder if he was being brought out for the flat plays breaching charges, but no, he's going to have a Claymore instead. And we now find Ash has recently been nerfed. Our R4C isn't very good anymore, or at least it's harder to control. It's actually still pretty solid. It's just a little bit more difficult, and the G36 was a competitive gun to begin with, and since it has an angled grip and a 1.5 times sight, you can pretty much run G36 now consistently. But one of the biggest losses was the fact that she no longer has 3 of her ranged charges. She's now back to her vanilla state of 2, and that's forced a lot of teams to go in favor of Iona. Simply put, she's able to destroy 3 pieces of utility, plus she increases the overall surface area of droning. And that's just an asset that you can't overlook. Asian's gonna overextend his welcome, playing in ticket booth, and he just stands his ground and gets slaughtered as a result. 2 aggressives from him, and now Team Mystic is going to be at the back foot for their mate of this round. Ashen just vaults outside onto Waltz, who gets slammed in the process. I mean, strong aggression being shown by Mystic. I was so shocked, I forgot words for a second there. I couldn't fathom what I was singing.
It's a bit of a cheeky play, wasn't it? All things considered, worked out in the end. They well spot that Capkin trap. Teddy's not falling for that. Looks down into Freezer, sees if he can drop in there as well, but he's not so game to push his luck. So it is tied 4-4. A bit of a good aggressive play coming in there to not necessarily save the day, but at least reset the ledger. There's a good one. Gnar will go down, so that ends the hot streak there for the Sledge. Tone responsible for that kill. He will get brought down instead as Amp follows it through. Amp detonating the breaching charge right there as well to do a little soft destruction. Now it's tied 3-3. Things staying relatively level between these two squads. Baxley checking down the backside, will go back round over to the vertical, and maybe we'll play off of that. Impact grenades and stun grenades coming in. The soft breach round goes sailing in as well, but just a matter of opening here, and time starting to tick down. Chief, they will drop into the freezer hatch.
Already that control in through Meat Locker. Amp has Java. Plant's going to be initiated, and Team Mystic is now fully aware that some shenanigans are taking place. A Nitro Cell find his target. Teddy is deep. You know, that was a planter. Great game sense from Amp. Able to snap in from behind. He trades directly with Poison, but since it was a 2v3 and the dying sets to execute, Team Mystic still had 1 player alive, plus they were defenders. They would have won that trade no matter what, because the attackers technically never put the diffuser on the ground. Another very tight round for Alter. Great reads, great time management for them, but it eventually just dagger gates and the planting execute.
It was a good adaptation from Alter, if we're being honest, because that was not anything like what Mystic had showed on the last time that they were down on that particular bomb site. So Alter, I think, had to change their plans just a little bit. I appreciate the attempt at the freezer rush there, too. They saw the opening, they took it. Unfortunately, they just could not make it stick. I mean, Teddy was inches, or I should say seconds, really, away from getting that plant down and perhaps changing the tenor of the end round situation just a little bit, but unfortunately did not come to fruition. It is back back up to the 3rd floor now. Poison makes a return on Clash. Asian here with the Melusi. Tones is over to the smoke. Spiff coming out on the Aruni there, bringing the Surya Gates into the equation. They do have the pieces in place if they wished for a more traditional pixel hold, but that might not be the case. They are doing a pretty big opening in the wall right there. I can only imagine what that might be for. Maybe somebody with a shield that shocks people from a long way away, but we'll see exactly how they want to set that up. And of course, that second extension that you mentioned before, Chief, down in to the 2nd floor to just give them a little bit more room, maybe to use some of the boom booms that they do have. That said, they really only have Asian C4, so he's going to be the man in motion here for the squad when it comes to getting any of those C-floor kills.
I want to go back to round 5 for 1 second, quarterback, and I want to highlight what the play Ashen did. Simply put, a lot of people say, oh, that was a terrible play to make. That was just stupid levels of aggression. But one thing that Mystic does well is they're not afraid to take gunfights, and they're usually pretty calculated with those gunfights. Always, if they're a man down, they'll attempt to make a play, because I know you did a tax reference. You know, there's always debits and credits, and you want to eventually neutralize your balance sheet. And that's what they do when they take those gunfights. They always want to return to, in that scenario, a 4v4. And far too often do I see teams at every single level, even sometimes, you know, Challenge League teams, are just simply afraid of taking gunfights. Because, you know, the risk potential of it, the opportunity cost is death. And it could cost you dearly. Now, Ashen, the man who made a hero play back in round 5, is going to get sprayed down. Poison's Clash Shield, the plexiglass was not enough to save his noggin.
Unfortunate indeed. Such is the fate of many a hero right there, and you hate to see him go, but, well, that's just the way it works. And I should say, such is the fate of many a teammate trying to play off Clash's Shield at range as well. But still plenty of defenders here stacked up. Nothing too frustrating. Poison basically a mobile intel gatherer at this point in time. But Baxley will get another one. Spiff is down, so the Aruni is taken out of contention, and things getting a little hot here for the Mystic side. Some long bomb shots coming in from Asian. Tries to pull out and get one from the outside. Unfortunately, taught a very nasty lesson there by Teddy about peeking out. Poison will contribute one back in with the SMG, but it feels maybe like throwing a pebble in the ocean at the moment. They're going to need a lot more from these remaining 2 players.
All right, that was very complimentary of Team Mystic's ability to, you know, set the stage and take gunfights. But Asian's gunfight there was a little bit on the extreme side. He wanted to get the repel on the west window, but he just overextended his hands far too bit. Like, again, you have to be calculated with gunfights. I was praising them for calculated gunfights. I might call that gunfight a little bit towards the brain dead side of the spectrum. Poison's gonna overextend, he's gonna be felled, but that was his only option there. Tone's gonna follow suit as well. So far, Alter is going to have access to 3 different bar offenses, winning 2 of them.
Yeah, that top floor site, I think, is turning into a little bit of a siren song for a lot of teams in terms of how actually defensible it is. The more and more I see this cafe map played, the more and more I see teams lose up there. I think it's not the site that it once was in terms of the ability to hold it. I don't know. You've been in it longer than me. I'd be curious to see what you think about that.
Again, I don't know. I would have probably gone to Reading Room, and I also probably wouldn't have been so aggressive in Washroom. That was part of the problem, right? You could see the strategy. It's an old Team Mystic, not Team Mystic. That's an old synthetic strategy, hiding behind that Washroom plexiglass shield of Poison. They've ran that under, I think, both iterations of Team Synthetic when Poison was IGLing that roster. So it's a tested strategy that works for them, but at a certain point, you have to realize that the offense has read into it, and it's not going to work for you. So they never made that correction. Actually, they did make a correction. That was Asian flying out and through the West Bakery door.
You know, it was a valiant. I won't take it away from him. Daring, let's say, but yeah, Fortune, despite what the SAS would have you believe, Fortune does not always favor the bold. So definitely not coming through in that particular context, but we are at the flip here. We will see what Alter brings to the table on the defense. The Mirror, the Maestro, the Smoke, a Jaeger, and a Wamai here to round things out. So a very, rather, I would say, typical defensive hold, all things considered. On the other side, we have the Hibana coming into action. You have a Nomad, and Iana Zofia, and that smoke to round things out. So again, a relatively traditional set of operators here allows them some flexibility in how they want to go about attacking this. And I mean, you did mention at the start of this, Chief, that Mystic usually a side that prefers to kind of come in on the attack. They showed us a little bit of a different angle here, starting on the defense, and I mean, it worked out for them. 4-2. They just need to go ahead and polish this one off as quickly and as fashionably as they can.
Now, we've heard a lot of players talking about the LMGE is going to be the new meta. I actually think it started with Asian the other day, about a week ago on Twitter. He said, you know, the M762, when it gets nerfed, there's just no point in bringing it out. Same thing with the R4C. So why not bring a gun that's actually broken? It's a complete laser beam. The only downside to the LMGE is the fact that it has a slow ADS time. I mean, all LMGs in the game, just ADS slower than, you know, the rifles, you know, the submachine guns and the shotguns. I mean, that's just one of the balancing matrix, right? You have high rate of fire, high damage, but the downside is it's just slow to aim down the sights. But when you can rifle 150 bullets without reloading and just mag dump your opponents, I mean, it's a terrifying weapon to go against. And Waltz very soon is going to be on the bitter end of that weaponry. Be careful picking up that with my pancakes. If you grab it wrong, it could pick up your shield. But fortunately, he doesn't grab that. The mirror window's open, and Asian's gonna fall. He pre-fires, but Waltz is just better.
Yeah, it wasn't that one at least. It got the good go there, and they're still trying to get that damn shield down, but they will do so. So unfortunately, Poison does strike back here to turn it into a 4v4. The ability of Mystic to take revenge for their losses, never to be underestimated. They're basically taking control of the cigar area, and they will start their own push in here. Tones ducking back around, and they're, I think, trying to parcel out the best way to go about this, considering the vast majority of the bodies are on that side. Baxley looking for a cheeky opportunistic kill with the Vector, won't find it, has to fall back as Grenade comes sailing in. Still can't blame him for trying right there. All things considered, it was a valiant effort, and still Mystic are pushing their way up, trying to pick this apart in these last few seconds. About 40 to go here, and just waiting on that action to manifest.
What avenue is Team Mystic going to elect for? Is it a bar back storage push? Is it going to be a white quarter push? It seems to be bar back storage. 2 kills roll in favor of Team Mystic. Poison starting to go for the plan, and now it's on Teddy. He has an LMG in hand, 82 bullets, sending bullets down range, but he doesn't even know where to look. Tones from the heavens, dropping the skylight pistol in hand, and he eventually finishes off Teddy. What a chaotic round. We're talking about all the options that Team Mystic has, and they saw the opening, they saw the avenue, and they pushed. Alter, they had good positioning. They actually had good cutoffs and crossfires. Team Mystic simply just walked in and won their ones.
That was a classic nothing personal kids moment there from Tones, dropped in behind him, and well, Teddy turned as fast as any Maestro has ever turned, but it was not fast enough, I'm afraid. All things being what they were. Still a very solid attacking round from Mystic. I will admit it took them a little while to get the ball rolling, but much like an avalanche, it built into kind of an unstoppable force. And Mystic, when they start taking those gunfights in ways that are favorable to them, are just a devastating factor. You will see them going back to the third floor here. The 6th pick coming out for Ying. So the Candelas will be making their appearance. Everybody's least favorite operator really coming out right there. And we'll see what they do with that. On the other side, Goyo being brought in by Baxley. So additional shields will be brought out. The Volcons making their appearance. Besides that, the double whammy in there as well. And the Mirror and the Maestro to round things out. So everything probably as it should be in that regard. They will need a little bit of an adaptation here. I will say, Chief, I do think that Mystic took that cigar side a little too easily right there, all things considered.
Now, I actually wanted to bring up kind of a theory discussion with you, Corbeck. If we pull up Cocktail Lounge, you know, the north side and the south side, there are 3 different little cocktail bars. If you were to number them, what way would you number it? Would the north be number 1 or the south be number 1? And I guess also a secondary question is, what do you think is more important, the north section of Cocktail or south section?
I feel like I'm being tested.
There isn't a test because there isn't a wrong answer here. I'll put it that way.
Step into Chief's dojo real quick. There are no tears in Chief's dojo. No, that's a really good question. I think I would start numbering them from the kind of like from the south, 1, 2, 3, and then in terms of what the most important part of that site is, I think I would say the south end as well. Yeah, that's my kind of gut instinct right there. But
interesting, very European of you. The Europeans would say they would count south as C1, and then C3 would be the north side. North Americans tend to call the north side C1, and then the other side C3. The North Americans say the north side's more important because it's called Maestro spot, where Maestro is on cams, and the Europeans will call what I would call C3, the south side, the most important side, because that's the rotation into wood and for it. So both answers are technically right. It just comes down to the regions you're in. I saw that debate earlier on today, and I was very vocal about the north side is always going to be C1. If you think anything else, you're just wrong. What on earth is going on again? Why are there so many runouts? It was an impact trick on Asian. He got hit by 2 of them, dropped down to 25 HP, and then a Hail Mary run out, and it finds the kill. Korvac, it's just the defense playing outside like attackers today.
Yeah, runouts do seem to be the name of the game, and they've been relatively effective, except for one, which we don't need to necessarily speak about, but that was well done, and I don't think there was much of a threat there, really, from Asian being able to swing that one back and get the kills, so all good there. Baxley more than happy to collect it. Teddy now on the Maestro cam, looking around with the evil eye, trying to see what he can see. Tone's doing a little bit of diving here as well, but not on the defensive side, so perhaps not as much of note there. We'll go up and secure the diffuser. About a minute left, and Mystic have done a relatively okay job of moving into position, but they are going to be a little bit pressured for the execute right here. They have not really brought these Candelas to prayer yet as well. All the air jabs have been deployed as well, it is worth noting. So a lot of util invested already, Chief, but no big returns just yet.
The only return they had was opening up the mirror window and washroom. But here's utility. Swings on in through heaven. Candelas are going to miss. But we see Smith planting the bomb. There's no one anywhere near for Alter. They're able to get some kills. 2 of them to their name, and Nitroso will find another one. It's Ashen against 4. Stuck in U-bar. And the plant didn't go down, so Amp's able to get his headshot. It was chaos for a few seconds, but Alter, they kept their heads clear, and they were able to find their kills.
Whoops, mistimed that Candela. So then I noticed it went in just before it went off, and Amp was like, oh, thank you for delivering yourself onto my gun. But still, I could get what the idea was there. I don't actually hate the idea of swinging, in from that general area, getting those Candelas out, kind of blinding the defenders, seeing what kills you can rack up. But Alter, a little bit wise to that one, did a very good job of staying collected right there, getting the kills that they needed. Now we go down to kitchen service, kitchen cooking. Echo making the appearance again. They do have hard breach denial. They are not forsaking it like their opponents on the side of Alter. We'll see Teddy taking over the role of the Kaid for this particular play. Poison bringing out the Maverick here, an almost necessary pick, really, and it does perhaps indicate the potential for a bakery push if that is what they choose. They certainly have the pieces in place to do that. Of course, they also have the pieces in place for a more top-down vertical approach as well. Poison with that blowtorch, really capable of doing a number of different things in this setup, so it'll be interesting to see exactly where he is going to be applied. And interesting as well, I think something to watch out for is just how Waltz makes use of these yokais. Usually they're kind of a late round development, though I did think we did see kind of in the Mystic defense a little bit more of an aggressive use out of them a couple of times. It's actually did come in big for the team, so that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, Team Mystic is known for those pure West Bakery takes. Now, I was looking at the drone spawns for Team Mystic, and they spawned on all 3 locations. So that could mean that Team Mystic is still debating on what offense that they want to go for, or if they're going to go for kind of their default take, where it's actually a combination of both of them, where they put a lot of emphasis in through Big Bakery, but they'll open up the 2 west-facing windows on the 2nd floor. They won't necessarily take vertical control, but what they'll do is they'll start to just open up some of those walls in a train room, and they'll just have this kind of pivoting auto turret of offense there. So if any members of Alter attempt to play those locations, they'll be forced to play those locations after taking a gunfight against Team Mystic. And the attackers in those scenarios should have the advantage because they'll have a positional advantage outside, plus you couple in the ranged optics and harder hitting 5.56 or 7.62 rifles, they should be able to find those kills. However, since that's yet to take place, Baxley is upstairs using vertical angles almost against Team Mystic, Poison has to be very careful. If he exposes his noggin just a little bit too much, he might be killed.
That scared me right there. Yeah, you could just see the top of his Mazari kind of peeking up onto those holes. And yeah, Baxley was just waiting for it, but never really got an angle that he liked. Fortunately for Mystic, Poison was able to finish his work with the blowtorch there. They have got the wall open. Unfortunately, Gnar here, the first point of contact, going to have to make something happen, and he does not. Tones locks it down and takes him down. And they've got a bunch of cheese holes punched in that wall as well. So plenty of views and angles in here. Mystic really taking I would say the lion's share of this, and it's going to be on them to see how they want to approach this one on the tail end. Ashen now pushing down the hallway, takes that Gemini in and just checks the coat room, and what do you know? Amp is waiting right there. Amp now with a bit of a dilemma as Asian gets another kill. That's Teddy who is taken down, so the Kaid is done and dusted. Waltz does manage to add one back on the other side. Baxley shot through the floor in the opposite direction. You don't see that very often. The murder hole coming the wrong way up, and then Spiff will finish it off with a very clean execute with the SMG-11 right there.
Now, Team Mystic ended up winning that round very handily because of their aggressive nature. They open up the west wall. I was complimentary of the style play early on, and they just commit to their take. They say, hey, I know exactly all the power positions that Ultra is going to be playing, and we're just going to take these gunfights. And we can rely on our mechanical skill, and I can guarantee we're going to win that. And Mystic used that as an asset. And even if a team member of Mystic lost their life, like Asian, pushing in through the red quarter, 2 members of Mystic instantaneously swung and took the secondary gunfight. And Alter, why they've shown brilliance, and particularly the strategy and theory of that kitchen hold was, I would say 11 out of 10. It was perfect, except Team Mystic just won gunfights. I mean, look at that multi-angle crossfire that was made in through code check as well as into meat locker Java. That angle worked so many different ways for Alter. It was something that I was very concerned that Team Mystic would not be able to deal with. And in my head, I was like, all right, Poison, make the rotation over into Coat. Just have a new cross angle. And all of a sudden, that player, Amp, sitting in Coat check, can no longer play as deployable shield, and he won't be able to sit there comfortably. That cross angle is now broken down, and you only have the cross in from Waltz into Java. And Team Mystic said, Chief, I don't really need to do that. Why? Because I can just win my ones. Again, if you're an IGL and you're looking at that round from Team Mystic, honestly, I would say probably don't replicate that unless you're comprised of all, plus 10 champ gunners who could just win their ones against anybody. Because, in theory, that maybe was not the best IGLing push, because there's other ways of breaking that down, but Team Mystic is just such a good roster, it really doesn't matter. Oh no, please don't tell me we're just moonwalking in a disconnect.
Oh no. And on the last stage as well. Oh, match point. Baxley is done and dusted. The internet betrays him as it has betrayed so many others in its time. Teddy will call for the rehost there, but alas, perhaps a bit of a dead deal, all things considered, but you never know.
Are we actually rehosting? We actually might be rehosting. No, so it seems like we won't be rehosting because the rehost call was called 45 seconds into the round. We can rehost after this round, after round 10, if he doesn't return. He has returned, so no need to rehost. None of that shenanigans. The only shenanigans that are going to be taking place is what Alter can do on defense with a man disadvantage. I actually want to back up quarterback. I don't want to say that, round 9 was bad IGLing. There's just other ways of pushing. Poison's a brilliant IGL. I've highlighted his strengths thousands of times, and he is probably the best amateur IGL, or at least top 3, easily. But there's other ways that other amateur IGLs should probably push that. Poison can do his own thing because he's
kind of do feel like that has sort of taken the wind out of the sails of the defenders, though, just a little bit. Teddy will manage to even it up, though, before any other contact is made, and that was a very important kill indeed from that Kaid player, and they might just be able to wrench this one back around and Spiff there going down early on, did secure the final kill in the last round. The shots coming through on the floor there. Poison going ahead and just open up some more of these vertical angles. Again, not necessarily to secure the kills. Sometimes it's just to kind of force defenders into more favorable positions for you as an attacker to push. 45 seconds coming up on the clock now, and really, we will need to see something big come out here on the Mystic side if they want to just finish this one. Time not in their favor. The diffuser is dropped, which usually indicates something bold is going to come down the pipe. The explosion there does not affect anyone. The frag grenade won't find its way in. Amp does take a little bit of an impact there from the stun, but again, it's not too bad. Amp trying to fight out of this coat room won't find anything there either. Waltz now starting to rotate around, comes down the long corridor, doesn't see anything, and there's an unfortunate team kill in there, but Gnar will get tones. Poison striking back now. It's a 3-2. Poison gets another one. Poison might just put the team on his back and secure this one. Ashen gets the kill down, but Waltz does finish one off. The 2v1 scenario here for the Echo. Waltz pushing forward, firing a couple of rounds in, speculatively over, and it won't work. Ashen pops up, knocks him down, and that is the match. No rehost required.
Well, Team Mystic, they're showing why they are one of the best teams here at Unified Premier. Now, we're only 2 weeks on end, but remember, the win that that Team Mystic had in week number 1 was they lost round number 1 because they were late, and they still had a phenomenal series. And here they entered into week number 2, and they look better than ever. This hybrid between OG Team Mystic, the underage Team Mystic players, and Synthetic, I mean, they came together and they're looking like a terrifying roster to play with. I mean, simply put, look what Poison can do as an IGL. Incredibly intelligent. He can shoot back. Plus, you have 4 just nuts gunners. I mean, how do you beat that, Corbeck? How do you outbrain them, and how do you outshoot them?
I wish I could tell you. I'm not a good enough Siege player to provide an answer there. They're going to need a strategist, bar none, to figure that one out for the future, because this Mystic squad does look quite strong. I mean, I don't think, this is to say, I don't think we take anything away from Alter. I thought they did quite a good job adapting as they could. You just got the feeling that this Mystic side is just kind of a juggernaut, and it's going to take a lot to hamstring them and slow them down, because they look nasty indeed. I agree with you 100%. They are a team to watch, and the fact that they kind of put a spanking there on a team of Alter's caliber, let's say, is something that should be noted on everyone's radar. If you're playing in UPL this summer, you are going to have to deal with this Mystic squad eventually, and you don't want to just be lining up to take your lumps. You want to be able to figure this one out, and it's going to take bigger brains than me to pull that one out.
And Alter, we highlighted that round 8 kitchen strategy. I mean, the cross angles they had look like something that 99% of amateur rosters simply will not be able to deal with, because that cross angle is terrifying. It controls default plants. It controls all red access. I mean, like I said, the only way of pushing that is really getting control of Coat or being Team Mystic and just trading gunfights. And that's just an asset that Team Mystic's always going to have. Again, Alter had strong moments of brilliance. They had some incredible theory that they showed, but in the end, theory doesn't end up winning you games. But Corbeck, it's been a pleasure casting with you today. That's going to be it for us. We only had one match, which is terribly sad. Our first match of the day was a forfeit. But if you loved what you saw here today, we'll be back once again, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and keep this tab open, because we'll have Valorant. Arties is going to be casting. The Hawaiian is crossing, not the pond. What do they say when Hawaiians are casting in North America proper?
Coming to the mainland?
Coming to the mainland. There we go. Artie's coming to the mainland again. But make sure you tune in for that Valorant match. Until next time, my friends, stay safe and well.